Just get on with it. Come on for everybody.
What's
Where I live's like 5 minutes from the beach, and it's just
We're on the book now, isn't it?
I got to represent Canada, right? I got my T-shirt. I got my little flag.
You do? Okay.
All about the brand, right?
Warren, where's yours?
My what?
The Canada flags.
Yeah, what is it?
Doesn't fit on my head. I have no hair. And I wasn't using Velcro this morning.
Oh, don't be too cruel to yourself.
Can anybody tell me if our resident jock is wearing her Scotland shirt?
Of course I am. Look.
Stand
Oh,
up.
but it's here. Where is Mike Roberts and Kelvin after last week's ribbon that I got in the lead up to the bloody Calcutta Cup on Saturday?
It's all gone quiet over there.
I'm standing proud with my nation today.
Milo, mute her. Mute her, Milo. Permanent mute.
I think we should allow them to win once every 20 years anyway.
Oh, you're too kind. You're far too kind.
No, Kelvin's not here. Did you notice that? He can't take the shame. The shame.
No. Exactly. Kelvin's not here. Mike Roberts, they were both giving me a right old stick last week. Where are they?
They ran off. They want to show. You know how they are.
Bloody uppity colonials.
All right, I think it's time to start. We got enough people to cover this subject because luckily Joanne agreed to cover it, and we feel it's going to be a fantastic session again. Thanks to her insights. We will be talking about the brand and how we should perceive brand nowadays and what it is all about and why is it so important in 2021. So without delaying any further, I think let's start with a little bit of background from Joe. If you could just tell us who you are, and for the future, for the viewers of the recording for later, if you could just explain, please, who you are and why you're here.
Sure. So I am Joanne Gore. I am a B2B marketer who's passionate about print. I am the president of Joanne Gore Communications, and together we help companies pinpoint who they help, how they help, and why it matters. And then we help them stretch their marketing dollars to generate awareness, engagement, and growth. And I'm here because, I'm a proud Canadian and I love you guys. And you have been my family across the sea throughout this entire pandemic. And when Milo approached me with the opportunity to take center stage, of course, I could never say no to that. So
thank you very much for accepting.
That's why I'm here.
So I must say, we discuss quite often, outside the pub, and we have communication on LinkedIn and place and other places, me and Joe. But obviously you can see Joe around LinkedIn everywhere, and I decided to dive deeper into her profile and just go through it. And what I realized is that Joe's LinkedIn profile shows that effectively she's been breathing marketing pretty much since birth. And there's quite a few big brands on her portfolio. To name a few, it's Ricoh, Avanti, Compaq, and many others. So, Joe, why did you choose communication as a part of your career path?
Well, it didn't start that way. I'm from Montreal originally. Oui, je parle français. And I moved to Toronto after graduating with my diploma as a graphic designer. I moved to Toronto as one of a handful of bilingual typesetters. And I worked in the print industry for printers, doing a lot of typesetting, a lot of graphic design, art direction. I've run presses, shot film, burn plates. I've done it all before computers. I know, shocking, go figure. while in the print industry, I was offered an opportunity to go work for a software company at the time called Delrina, which is actually where I met Sharon. I think she's still on here somewhere. She may have.
Yeah, I'm here. Go.
Okay.
Now.
So worked at Delrina to basically oversee their print production global standards. So I basically set up the global standards for the brand in the US, Canada, and the UK. So that was my first step into corporate B2B marketing, and I never left. I've been very fortunate to work for several software companies, not all of them in the print industry, but all of them trying to go after key vertical markets: financial services, healthcare, telco, insurance. So it's given me a breadth of knowledge and insights, not only software and hardware, as you mentioned, Compaq, Delrina, Avanti, DST, Xenos, Zbec, all of these companies you may or may not have heard of. They've all been acquired over the years. So none of the companies that I worked for, I don't think even exist as they once were in their original form. But as a B2B marketer, I found a really, it was an opportunity to really take what was happening in the print world, which was taking the brand and bringing it to life and migrating that to corporate marketing communications, where, everything from words and messaging and setting up these guidelines. And I just somehow found my niche of the ability to blend my passion for print, for marketing, for B2B, for software. All of these loves and passions that I developed over the years sort of all seem to come together. And that's where I am today, trying to help people who are just trying to understand what to do next. Does that answer?
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. So, okay, let's fast forward to current times. And what do you think has changed in marketing and communication over the last, 12 months, pretty much 12 months, isn't it now?
Everything.
Yeah.
I think everything is, look, the fact that we are, I tell everybody all the time that I was blessed to have a bunch of Brits sing happy birthday to me from across the pond. That never in a million years would have ever happened had we not been living through the times we're living now. So although, yes, it's horrible.
If Lucy Swanson calls in today, as Elizabeth Bowman told me earlier on, it's Lucy's birthday today. So if she logs in,
So the Canadians will sing to her.
We'll just go with 1, 2, 3.
No. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully she will. I'm not sure she will.
Someone text her, tell her to join. It's important.
Or maybe she doesn't want to because she's heard you all sing.
I would text her, but the restraining order says I can't do that.
Okay.
No, but seriously, how we interact, how we engage, the fact that we can have joke, we're all in different time zones, we're everywhere, but yet we're finding ways to connect and engage and interact and share and learn. That's what's changed. And the folks who have were already doing this have leapfrogged and clearly we're all here. Those who are playing catch up need to be here. But honestly, everything has changed. I don't know anything that stayed the same.
Cool. Okay. That makes sense. So thanks for that.
Joanne, I just want to jump in, but there are things that haven't changed, like branding, for example.
Right, but how you showcase your brand and things like attention spans, things like people's willingness to forgive perhaps a not so great customer experience, people's expectation of a B2B relationship or a B2B engagement versus a B2C engagement has changed, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is what this is what Joanne and I, we discussed how to call this subject, and we agreed that it would be a good idea to call it "Why is Brand Taking Center Stage in 2021?" So, can you please elaborate a little bit on that, please? Because it is exactly what we are here, to hear, and what Sharon was kind of going
So this whole topic, just so you know, started with a conversation I had with Sharon quite a while ago, where we were really talking. It was sort of a chicken and egg scenario. What comes first, the messaging or the brand? Because we all know how important it is to have that strong message, know who you help, how you help, why it matters. I preach that all the time, but that's only relevant if people know who you are. And one of the ways to do that is through the brand. And I already alluded to the fact that attention spans have shrunk. Now, the fact is, attention spans to a degree haven't necessarily shrunk once you get the attention. So once you've captured somebody's attention, they are willing to immerse themselves in the information you're sharing if they feel that it is relevant and important to whatever it is they're looking for. But the trick is getting that attention. So if you're on your phone and you're scrolling, what's going to stop you? Is it the colors? Is it the icon? Is it a sound that you heard? If you're on Google and you do a search term and you get 10 results on that first page, which result are you going to click on first? You're going to skim the source. Right now, more than ever, that source of information is so important because trust has eroded so much, because we've been exposed to certain realities that we may or may not have recognized was going on in the back end. So that ability to make somebody stop in their tracks, when they see your brand, when they see your name, what is the first thing that comes to mind? You're like, oh, I know these guys. I reached out to them. They never answered me back. Or I had a great experience with these guys. Or I know somebody who works for this company. He's a great person. All of that happens literally in the blink of an eye. You do it yourself. You may not even realize it. I mean, who here has actually done a Google search for anything that you're looking for, a product, a solution, consumer business, it doesn't matter. You get this whole thing show up. Do you go to the first one, or do you look to all the answers and decide, okay, which one am I going to click? So stick your hands up if you're scrolling through the results to decide, okay, who do I choose to look at? How do you make that choice? So Neil, I'm going to pick on you, Neil. How do you decide who you're going to click on when you make that Google search?
Good question, because usually the first three have ad by them, which I always steer away from, because that means they're paying to be there. So
unless they're your competitor and you want to just rack up the clicks,
yeah.
but
The interesting is that I never go past probably page 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably look, down 3 or 4. And I suppose it depends on what I'm looking for.
So how do you choose? What's your criteria? Let's say
The
you're
relevance.
looking for.
My thing is relevance. I search for relevant answer to my question to Google. If the question is answered better on the second or third or fourth link, I click there. But I don't know. That's how I prefer to do it.
But you're choosing from 3 lines, aren't you? 3 lines of information that comes up on that result. Okay. So as you say, Milo, if it just answers your question but gives that little bit extra, it sort of makes you feel as though they maybe know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, so that's worth a look.
Mark Stevenson,
what if they all have the same thing? What if they all pretty much say the same thing? What if
you look, Joanne, the answer you want is trust.
Yay!
Right? So
You can
how
stop
do you
digging
know
now.
what builds that trust?
Just a history of knowing that brand or person does the right thing. And
for
Nature's bloody pet, Stevenson.
Yeah, and they're relevant, they're current, they're up to date. They're not appeared after 3 years of silence. You know, it's familiarity. It's all those things. It's what makes you approach somebody in the room when you walk into a room full of people.
That's your brand, right?
Yeah.
How you feel after interacting with them, whether it's for 2 seconds or 2 years. Warren is dying to say something, I can tell.
No, I'm just, is it the same? And this is going to be, I hope not everyone takes it the wrong way, but are we talking old people and is it the same for young people?
It depends who your market is, right?
Well, are the younger people thinking the same ways of everything that you just said, or they go in and they just click the first thing automatically all the time because they're lazy and in a rush? And then it goes against everything you're saying because they're just doing it for the convenience.
Yeah,
I
you
think
don't
the
want people
younger
like that.
generation is very, very loyal and they are more particular about who they which brands they choose to be loyal to
Extreme
than
brand
any
awareness.
of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very high brand awareness, very conscious of it, and company culture, which has now become integrated with the brand.
Yeah,
I have construction. I have to mute. Sorry.
We have to mute Robert. Oh my goodness, whatever are we going to do?
That's normal, but he muted himself, which is
Yeah, we're not used to him muting himself.
No, but you bring up a really good point, because what the properties of a great brand, or why a younger person, let's say a Gen Z or a younger millennial, right? And I'm going to remind everybody, the older millennials are all 40 now. So you can't say millennials and say they're, a bunch of kids, because they're all in their 40s. Some are grandparents already. So let's wrap our heads around that. Yeah, Neil's laughing. Thankfully, I'm not a grandparent yet. But the reality is, everybody's expectation for a customer experience is different. That's why it's so important you know who you help, because the more you know about who you help, the more you can ensure you are delivering the experience that matters most to them. You're not trying to please your family. You're not trying to create something that you like. You are creating an experience for your buyers, your prospects, and your partners and your influencers. That's who's going to pay the bills. That's what matters. Nobody's agreeing with me yet, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, Joe, you win. Give up.
We're not here. I can put this back on there. I win.
So it's the trust. It's how to generate new opportunities nowadays. Really, is the trust the only thing to use? To develop.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
Of course.
But there's that old motto, any PR is good PR. So there have been scandals. There have been times where brand trust has eroded, but they've come back. Some brands have, and some brands haven't. We live in a cancel culture right now.
It's not always about trust, is it? Because if you're a new entry, then how can you have built trust?
Yeah, exactly. That was my next question. Yeah.
You can still build relevance.
No, that's different. Relevancy is different to trust, though, isn't it? Because I can name a number of brands that are relevant that I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw them.
Do you purchase those brands?
Absolutely.
Not if they're relevant. I may take some. Trust skews how quickly or how likely you are to buy. But I have bought things from brands I don't trust.
Why?
But if there are other things that are in my favour, so it's a balancing act.
Yes, but if you had a choice, I'm guessing, Kelly, that you purchase stuff from brands you don't trust because nobody else was able to deliver exactly what you needed. So you were kind of forced to deal with a brand you didn't quite trust. I'm guessing.
Sometimes it could be cost related. It could be, well, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. There's lots of factors.
So let's go down that path of cost, right? So you've got generic brands versus brands, right? You go shopping, you can buy the whatever. I guarantee you, everybody here at some point in time has purchased a generic brand and has also purchased a known brand, and will continue to do so for certain products. For certain products, it's going to be because of the cost, or it's going to be because it's the anti-brand. But for others, there's no way that I will buy a generic ketchup. I'm going to buy
No,
Heinz.
but that's as much about the experiential effects of it as well. We talk about millennials and Generation Zs; they are brand disloyal. I've never bought a can of non-Heinz baked beans ever in my life. I've never ever bought anything other than Heinz tomato ketchup.
You're so sophisticated.
I know. But my 18-year-old son just goes down to the shop and buys. He likes the label. He liked the look of the label, so it's the experience. He felt, oh, this looks like it's different, it's unique. He's got no loyalty to a brand, no history with that brand.
So once he tries that product with the great label that caught his attention, hint, hint, printers, now somehow that brand has managed to capture his attention and it's gotten him to buy. And we're down the consumer path now, which is a very different experience than B2B, but let's run with it, right? So he picked up, let's say, the ketchup because it had a great new fancy label. But after he actually tasted it, did he buy it again? Is the question.
It's not
What
run out.
became the experience? So yeah, a lot of times people will try different brands for whatever reason. They're tired of their brand, or maybe, you know what, I've been using this for so long, it's try something new. If it's a partner, you know what, let's check the pricing. Is there something better out there? Is some newfangled something out there? The question becomes, once you try it, do you switch back to the original brand, or do you continue down the path of this new brand? And if you do so, do you then become that spokesperson? Do you shout out, hey guys, you may have always had Heinz ketchup, but I've got to tell you, I've tried this brand new one. You've got to try it. And if I shared that with my friends, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or wherever I feel the people who consume the most amount of ketchup are hanging out, and I want them to try it because I think it's awesome, I've now become that influencer.
Okay, but with business to business, it's a little bit different. It's less emotional,
right.
isn't it? So
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I'd say absolutely. I see Sharon shaking her head. We all have learned to, our consumer hats and our business hats have just smashed up against each other. You're shaking your head, Chris? All right, I got to hear what Chris has got to say.
As an example, I never buy Apple products from Apple.
Why?
Because their service is nowhere near as good as John Lewis.
But you're still buying Apple products.
Yeah, but the service I get is much better. And I don't think everything has changed. Selling hasn't changed. Online, you're doing it. I used to do it in a car. Now I do it online. My skills are just the same. I'm very good at delivering, very good at presenting, or I'm terrible at delivering, terrible at presenting.
But you've changed how you do it.
Yeah, but I haven't changed what I do.
No, you don't need to change what you do. It's how you're choosing to get the message out that has changed.
So I would say the medium has changed, not what you do.
The vehicle, not the
channel of communication.
It's no longer a vehicle.
Absolutely. All of our channels of communication, and they're going to continue to change because we're constantly going to find new buying segments who are hanging out on different channels that we don't know about and we have to learn about.
They're going to change as often as the vaccines.
So how to generate the new opportunities? Because is there a good way to do it nowadays? Is there a different approach that we should consider?
So if you take the old-fashioned selling method, for example, that Paul is extremely good at, and you add how you do that online, then you get an amazing combination. If you're still doing web to print, MIS, DEMS, the way you were 10 or 20 years ago, you're dead.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
Can I just jump in? I just want to touch on two things
Please
that
do.
Joanne and everyone else said. So the first one, when you were talking about trust, people buy from people they know, like, and trust, but not always at the same time. So they're not going to trust you straight away, but they might know you or they might like you. So if you can choose two, if you get 2 out of the 3, then you're doing well. And the idea is to get the third. So So that's where the trust comes in. You know, it's not, they don't trust you straight away, but they know you, and then ultimately they will trust you. That's the one thing
Hopefully.
I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to touch on is the B2B boring versus the problem with B2B, which people don't understand, is that if you're selling a business product, you're still selling it to people, and people still have senses of humor. They have spouses, they have children, they have pets. So you can still connect with them emotionally in a more fun way. The biggest problem B2B companies have right now is that they're so boring that you want to kill yourself when you go to their website or you look at them. But if you work with me or Joanne, we make it fun, because B2B can be fun and still be professional.
Okay.
That was all. I just wanted to add those two.
It goes back to what I said, especially, you know, not to pick on the poor printers, but hey, you asked for it. So you go to a typical website and all you talk about is what you do and how it works, right? Whether it's a press, whether you're selling equipment, whether you're selling software, whether you're selling print, what you do and how it works, features, functions. What we need to do is shift that conversation to who you help, how you help, and why it matters.
Yep.
And that's where that conversation shifts, and that's where the brand starts to come out. That's where, as salespeople, you can start to promote your own personal brand, but still stay honest with the company you work with if you understand who they help, how they help, and why it matters. So you can infuse your personality while sharing the value of the company that you represent without going down the rabbit hole of book a demo, or let me send you samples, or let me give you a quote. That conversation happens so far down in the customer journey. You need to be engaging with them so much earlier, learning about what does it take for them to build trust? What do they like? What does matter to them? What information are they looking for? Where are they finding that information? That's where the work comes in. Chris, you must be awesome at it. You could sound like you've been doing this for forever. A lot of us, it's intuitive in nature. If you're a great salesperson, you know how to do this. But it's just become a little bit more difficult for some because the rules have changed a little bit.
Could I cut in?
Yes, please.
A couple of things. I mean, from my point of view, if I'm researching software or equipment for a client, I am not interested in the marketing. I want features. I want to find out what it can do. I need to find it out very quickly from their website. But maybe I'm a different sort of audience as a technical person. But a question for Joanne. How do you make yourself relevant to the smaller printer? How can they get value from somebody like you? When, you know, can they afford you? Can you tailor yourself to deal with, you know, the thousands of small printers on a turnover of a few $1 million a year and employing 15 people? Is it worthwhile for them? How do you prove it's worthwhile for them? All the usual questions.
Can I attempt to say something on that, Paul? Because 15 years ago, I wrote a story in Print Week called My Dad's Bigger Than Your Dad. Are you familiar with the concept at school? Two kids get fighting. I'm going to get, my dad's bigger than your dad, you're in trouble, yeah? Manufacturers still do it now. And by the way, so do most salespeople and so do most print companies. They put on the sign that says, we've got an 8 color and it prints at 25 million sheets a minute. They never say what difference that makes to you. What does that do for you? And when you go on a website and you look for comparisons about what the software does and what it doesn't do, that's good. But right at the bottom, there should be something that says, and this is how it can help your business. And the person that taught me that is Chris Jordan, by the way. So 15 years ago, and the buggers are still not doing it, are they, Chris? They're still not doing it.
I'm putting it
My
in the
dad's bigger
chat.
than your dad.
But yes, it all goes back to the why it matters, right? And to answer your question, Paul, the way we help companies is first and foremost understanding what goals they're trying to achieve, right? You got to figure out, okay, what are you trying to achieve? How much are you willing to invest in it? Both time, resources, and money, right? There's 3 levels of investment. You can't just throw money at something if you're not there to help support it and grow it and nurture it. How can I help? There are printers who cannot afford me. I agree. However, they can afford to bring me in to help them sell their solutions to their customers, because I can have that conversation about why print matters where they might not feel comfortable. There are a lot of printers who only know how to sell equipment and run size and run rate, and they're trying to sell direct mail. And they just don't understand that the conversation isn't about how many sheets of paper you can stuff into an envelope as quickly as you can. The conversation is all around why you want to extend your digital experience and make it physical, make it tangible. The proof behind when you touch something, you have a much stronger brand recall. I can have those conversations easily. Bring me in with your customers and I will help you shed the light, open up this whole world, and then we can work together to refine what your message looks like so you can get more of those people. That's how it works.
What you just described, though, is they're talking, they're expecting the customer to come in asking for what it is that they have. That's what you just described. They're saying, I'm the marketing person. I know the demographics of it. Here's my list. You have to be able to print it really fast. Can you do that? That's what the printer hopes, because then you can say, yes, I can print it really fast and I can get it to the post office really quickly and blah, 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 blah. What you're describing, though, is that do they need to extend what their service value is by saying, well, listen, we can actually help you by using a variety of direct mail offerings, and I can only speak to the U.S. type of ones, but there's several channels within direct mail that can be used, and that would be a value add to them to say, listen, we can work with you on these kinds of things and be very proactive about going out and getting that message out. When you need to do this kind of a campaign, these are the things that we can do to, 1, save you money, 2, be more effective, 2, to get it done quicker, a shorter window to the drop. All those kinds of things are really important to be able to say, and so few printers articulate that. Your point you made earlier about the website not explaining those things, that is such an oversight, because that has become a major touch point for whatever's going to emphasize and build your brand integrity. And if you can't say it in your website in that minute or 2 that you might get for somebody who's interested in peruse it, you're dead.
5 seconds. 5 seconds is what you got for people to land on your homepage and bounce off if they're not quickly getting the information that they feel they need. You might have it on your website, it might be buried somewhere, but if they can't find it when they land on whatever page they land on, because they've done the Google search, they've chosen to click on whatever link has driven them to your website, and now they get there and they're like, no, I'm gone. This isn't what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, that's not a very interested buyer.
More to do with consumer to business rather than business to business. If somebody's seriously looking for something for their business, they're likely to have a longer attention span than a 5 seconds.
Yes, once you've captured, as I remember I said right at the top, once you capture their attention, they do have a longer attention span to consume whatever it is they're interested in. But you still have to get them first. You have to attract them. So whether it's your website, whether it's, are you coming up, is everything optimized? Are you using the right keywords? Are you going after the right people? Are you using the right colors and the right words? Are you sharing what you do and how you help on the right platforms? Are you where they're looking? Who is your buyer? How old is
speak to that? No, speak to that, because what you're mixing 2 things that are admittedly integrated. You're talking about messaging and design. And so as a graphic designer with your background, that messaging needs to be integrated into it. Speak to how you talk to people about that, because if they don't have their messaging down, if they're still standing in front of their printing press, say, use me, as opposed to the whatever value that it is that they add, if they can't get that message across with the user experience when somebody lands on the website, How do you address that with the printers? Because that is something, whoever brought it up about the small printers, I think Paul brought it up. That's a message that they can all use. And just one last thing. When I went out a couple of years ago, working with somebody, I went out and I spoke to over 200 printers in Florida, small shops, all of them. None of them had more than 10 employees. And that absolutely was what they needed to understand, is they didn't know how to say, this is the value that I add, other than going to the Chamber of Commerce and letting people know I'm right down the street and I'm a friendly guy, which is necessary and good, but it's not going to grow your business much.
Thank you very much, Robert. Matt, please.
Yeah, I just popped onto the VPress homepage. So I've got no idea whether it's optimized or not. The colors don't particularly appeal to me. And the first thing it says is, do you want to go to the pub? Which admittedly appeals to me greatly, but might not apply to most people who are looking to increase their sales.
We are in the process of rebuilding our complete site.
We are.
No. Next year, next month.
Construction.
Next month, you will be seeing it.
The first people.
I agree, this is not great, but it was. Let me explain, because I feel
Matthew, finish.
That's my
Milo,
bad.
before you do that, can I just make a point? Because I actually want to be nice to you as well as horrible. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we're all here talking to VPress. The first person, if I've got a client who I think needs web to print, the first people I'll pick up the phone to will be VPress. Okay. I haven't got the technical expertise to go VPress have the right technical side of things compared to everyone else. I haven't got a clue, but they are really good at building their brand through engagement. Despite their homepage under reconstruction, they've built their brand in a completely different way, which is through engagement. So quite possibly, I've no idea whether I use the right colors. My website SEO is absolutely shocking because I manage it myself. My branding, it can be pulled to shreds by any of you here, but a lot of people know me and talk to me because I reach out on LinkedIn and I get talking to people, and I do experiential branding as well. So I think these days, isn't that quite a big bit of it? So a lot of the small print shops who want to have a message, they probably haven't got the budget to go out and do massive campaigns, but they can get on Facebook and talk to their local clients and get a message out there and be nice people and get recommended. And that bit will get them business more than changing their brand colors. So just a thought.
And to wherever he disappeared off the screen, but that is exactly one of the ways that I am helping smaller companies is, I don't want to use the word training, but sharing strategies so that they can use this approach that Matthew is talking about and learn what conversations matter. Look, I'm going to use a trade show back in the day when we could be on the trade show floor, and I'm going to go back to my Delrina days, and Sharon's going to know exactly which story I'm talking about. We started a huge conference on day 1, launching a product. By day 5, the message had completely changed. Why? Because we learned by talking to people on the trade show floor, what question, what conversation actually got them to stand up and go, "Ooh, I want to hear more. I want to learn more." Once we could pinpoint what that was, then we could evolve that and get more and more and more people to have conversations with. Well, it's exactly the same thing today. The fact is that we have so many different platforms to do this is amazing. We didn't have that even a year ago, we weren't doing it. So going back to the question about what's changed, we have, as people, as human beings, have an opportunity to have conversations with other people and human beings to really learn, where are they struggling? Where do they need help? I can point you to an article. I've got a whole blog library that I encourage everybody, go take it, use those blogs, share them. You don't have to write it. Take something you read that you like, explain why you're sharing it with your prospects, your customers, your influencers. Why does this matter to them? And start the conversation. As the conversation evolves, you will be able to quickly learn what questions you need to ask to get them on that sales path conversation. When that happens, you can then take that and roll it back to your website. So it's kind of a little bit of a reverse way of doing it. Run little quick campaigns. They don't have to cost thousands of dollars. You can run a quick start campaign, throw up a landing page, test some messaging, test a call to action. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be done. It has to be written well. It has to be really clean. It has to be optimized, but it doesn't have to break the bank. And you do that and you learn. If it fails, great. Now you've learned, okay, we're not going to do this. But when it works, then you can say, wow, this really worked. Now, how can we make it work more and better? Now, how can we replicate it and do it again and go after a different market using the same approach? That's how you grow. That's how you test new messages. That's how you engage new buyers today.
So as a group, how could we do an experiment that we can gauge? We've got all these professionals. We're all talking to the converted. How do we do something as a group that we can go out and talk to others that we want to sell all of our stuff to, right?
Well, we're
'Cause
doing
I'm saying I'm listening on the thing, but then when we all leave here and we go to customers, what are we saying to them? We're listening because we're very interested. A lot of people out there that we're talking about don't even know where to turn, where to sit, where to start, who to believe, what's the first, and then they end up turning around and doing nothing. Because the majority of the people that we're talking about are the small, medium people.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here and I'm excited, but I have to think of 3 people that I know, and there's not a chance in hell with whatever any of us would say would convert them. How do we convert those? Because those are the hard ones that affect a lot of our industry, right? And what happens in pricing. If we got everybody on the bandwagon doing the same thing, then pricing in print would automatically go up because everybody would automatically be smarter.
I've said this a few times in the past. You'll convert an idea into a sale when you pick up the phone and speak to people or go and visit them. That's the only thing that works for me. LinkedIn is great for getting a message out there. And by the way, I have to confess, I deliberately use it to pick a fight with my competitors, knowing that they can't help themselves by putting comics and spreading my word even further. It's brilliant, but I'll never sell anything doing it. I've got to go and visit them and pick up a phone. It's the only way I get anywhere. I'm not very good at this online stuff.
Well,
You're just a
good.
troublemaker.
But you brought up a good point, right? Pick up the phone.
Surprised
Does that mean the same thing today? To me, pick up the phone means book a Zoom call. So it's kind of become a cross between picking up the phone and having a face-to-face meeting. So I've found a way to sort of mush them together a little bit. And it doesn't take, usually after 2 or 3 interactions, I can pretty much get a Zoom call with pretty much anybody I engage with.
Good point.
Once I know a little bit about them and it can say, you know what, I would really love to continue this conversation. Can we hop on a call? And then I say, or if it's vice versa, because there's a little bit of discrepancy between calendar links and you saying calendar links. I always say, do you have a calendar that you can share with me, or shall I share mine with you? So I'm not making assumptions. I'm giving them an opportunity to be in control of the conversation, in control of the process. But 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, can you shoot me over a link? And sometimes they'll shoot me one back. But I've
also, I just send Outlook invites with the Zoom appointment, just saying, here's the time. If there's a time that's more convenient for you, please let me know.
Absolutely.
Right? And if they don't, and they usually connect or they give me another time. People don't like to really say no when you put them on the spot.
Right. And also it's you've got to ask the questions that are not yes or no questions. That it's, again, sales 101. The biggest thing I've learned throughout this entire pandemic is how to ask those types of questions. And honestly, one of the easiest questions that I could think of to ask is, how did you get into X? Spend 10 seconds looking at their profile, look for something unique that gets them talking about themselves. They will love you. They will remember you. That's how you extend that conversation and bring it forward. That's how you start building your brand. Because
that was my next question, actually, because we are just running out of time slowly. We're approaching an hour. And I wanted to ask you about the personal brand, because we are talking about the business brand. But, equally important, I think, is who you who is selling to you and what kind of person this is. So can we have a little bit of a few minutes on a personal brand and how to build a personal brand?
It's called just being yourself and being human. I mean, people work with people. They know, look, who here knows what to expect if you are going to be on a call with Warren? Do you know what you're going to get?
Kelvin.
I'm going to ask you this. What are you going to get if you're on a call with Warren?
Depends who you are.
Enthusiasm and fishing.
Okay. And you might get the occasional F-bomb, right? You might.
I don't notice that.
No, I do.
That's because it's every second word of yours.
So what he's built his own personal brand while building a company brand at the time. But now you're building your
Now I'm just
own...
left with me. There's no company.
Exactly. But that becomes part of your brand. You can't get away from that. Your history is part of your brand. Look, my son worked for a white label cosmetics manufacturer. Okay. That means anybody who wants to create their own line of cosmetics, health and beauty items, lotions, potions, creams, whatever, they can hire this company, choose their line of product, and have a brand created, and then the labels printed, and that lipstick now is the Warren Werbert lipstick for fishing or whatever you decide to come up with. But I can tell you, since COVID, he has been so busy because
so busy
creating their own personal brands. They're starting their own shops. They're starting their own side hustles because they're stuck at home and they're getting their CERB checks or whatever, their PPP payments, and they're trying to make money. So they're doing what they've always loved to do. So having that go on Instagram, I mean, oh my goodness, it's all about your followers, your influencers, your brand. So you want to know how to build go look at what's going on out there. There's a huge explosion. From a B2B perspective, my brand is, I like to think it's fun, it's honest, it's fair, it's kind. People, I hope that's what, when people work with me, that they recognize they're going to get somebody who knows their shit, who's going to give them honest answers, honest direction, but is going to do as much as possible to roll up their sleeves and help you achieve your goals with as little impact to your budget as possible. So really maximize whatever you have. $100, I will figure out how to make the most of that $100. You have $10,000, let's figure out what we can do with that. But it all comes down to their goals and objectives. How you build your personal brand comes across with what you share, what you say, how you talk to people, how you help people. That becomes part of your personal brand. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, agree.
It makes sense, but then there's the flip side to that, and damaging personal or company brand is also, it can happen quite easily. And
yes,
is there a way to avoid it? What do you do? How to make sure that you don't damage it in a silly way?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to know what could damage your brand.
That's true.
Right? And that, again, all goes back to knowing who you help. If I'm a dog lover and I'm talking to somebody who loves cats and I say, oh my God, I wish somebody would take this cat and just throw it against the wall.
Put it in a
They're not
microwave.
gonna like me very much. So I got to know who I'm talking to, and I'm being very facetious here, right? But the reality is it comes back to, look, Milo, I can't even imagine. One of the first questions I asked was, do I need to have Muppet characters behind me? Because I can't imagine a pub without seeing the Muppet character. That's part of who you are.
I am
That's
a Muppet.
become
Yeah,
part
I
of
know.
who you are.
Those three Muppets.
So I'm gonna throw this back out at you.
We should
who
all come
hasn't
dressed as
spoken?
Muppets next time.
Kelvin, how would you describe your personal brand?
Ooh.
What do you want people to think about you, the brand Kelvin?
As in Kelvin, not VPress. Sorry, I came late.
Your personal brand. We're talking personal brand now.
I think my personal brand is someone I would hope, that people can come to for help, be responsive and try and be helpful and add something to it rather than take it away. And trust me, I don't always get it right. That's for sure.
So what are
we
you
trust
doing?
you on that.
But what are you doing to make that part of your brand?
So so at the moment, I'm taking part in a university course, which is to help with my management skills, because my management was founded in the military. So I did 12 years in the military, and sometimes that's a bit abrasive. I know it's a bit abrasive. So I'm doing a university course at the moment with University of Portsmouth, where it's about business leadership, it's about brand management, about how we are as a brand, how the company is, and how resilient your brand is as well. So I'm looking for ways to do that. But this helps as well, the fact that you can engage with different people in different ways. So I'm promoting.
This is like therapy.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, your head's down. She's like, uh-oh. What would you say is your personal brand, and how do you go about promoting that? Especially with regards to your company.
Okay, so there's two different aspects to that. So there's me, personal me, who has a lot of good friends, because I like to think, same as Kelvin really, that if somebody's got a problem or if somebody needs assistance, and I have it quite regularly, they'll kind of reach out to me and say, oh my God, can you help me?
Scary
I've got a
spice.
problem. I've got a problem. Is there anything could you help, or can you put me in contact with someone, or whatever the case may be? It may just be some type of mediation. Maureen, please, I'm being very serious right now.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not used to that.
Not many people are. Not many people.
That's his brand.
But I'm jovial. I come across as not taking anything too seriously. But at the end of the day, there's a serious job to be done, and that's the underlying aspect of everything that's got to be achieved. Being open, being friendly means that people will approach you. Sometimes that's good for me. Sometimes it's good for the business I work for. Sometimes it's just good because it helps people within a network. Obviously, you guys, I've spoken to lots of different guys, different ones of you at various points in times outside of the pub environment. So it's just purely and simply, for me, my brand is open and friendly with a light-hearted touch to everything that I do. Just purely and simply because if somebody's under stress, the last thing they need is somebody going, oh my God, really? And, because that just adds to their stress. Why do they want to talk to someone or deal with someone who's going to have that kind of approach to anything that they bring to the table? So that's personal me. Work me is a very different person. Work me would not be wearing a Scotland shirt right now.
Don't mention it.
I'm just telling you, it was there. But work me would not be wearing this type of attire at any point in time. And there's an element of always listening to what's not being said as much as what's being said. And this is obviously part of the marketing thing, is actually understanding what people's needs are and being able to bring them a solution. And that's what I sell. I sell a solution. I don't sell a product. I sell a solution to a problem that people have.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to.
So here's a question, and Facebook versus LinkedIn. I've made a distinct decision that Facebook is really for my family. I'll share pictures of my cats, my dogs. People want to, and I don't, people have asked to connect with me on Facebook from a professional level that I may or may not accept, because do I really want them knowing, what I had for dinner yesterday? That's not going to help them in business. So the people who I want to help in business, I've made a very distinctive differentiation between my world on Facebook and my world on LinkedIn. But from a company perspective, and by the way, all of you should have, other than Matthew and Neil, there's nobody that has their logo in the background. We are all.
I don't know how to do it. I have got one. They gave it to me. I don't know how to do it. Okay, hands up. That's me.
I can help you there. I will walk you through how to do that. But my point is, my business brand is on Twitter, is on Facebook, is on LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter. I took myself off Twitter months ago, personally. But my business, absolutely, they're on the platforms where I know that my prospects, partners, and influencers consume information. And that's where the company can help them. So there is a bit of a distinguish between who you are in your private life versus who you are is as a business person. But that doesn't mean you can't infuse your personality through your business channels. That's really where the difference happens.
And I just jump in and say that the most important thing for anybody's brand is to be relevant. And the way you become relevant is becoming an industry expert. So it's building industry knowledge and becoming a thought leader. Those are the things people want to hear from you. That when you become a thought leader and when you become an industry expert, all of a sudden you actually have something interesting to talk about rather than, please buy my product. All of a sudden your brand completely shifts, and that's all about being relevant.
And that goes back to what Nigel said, right? If you're going to post cat videos just to get clicks and bumps in your feed, that's wonderful, but that's not going to generate business. So decide who you want to be. Are you the person that posts cat videos, or are you the person that shares information that's going to help people make business decisions that are going to actually help them reach their goals?
But I work for a company called Cougar Software. Of course, a very unfortunate name for a company in North America. But in that instance, we did actually share cat videos. They were actually cougar videos, but it played into the brand. And so if the cat videos play into your brand, then so there's no hard and fast rule.
There is actually a print company in the UK that got a huge amount of engagement by posting videos of the office hamster, and they got a lot of engagement and quite possibly business from that as well.
Yeah.
And people logging on every day to see how it's going. There is one drawback with this, because the office hamster eventually died, which I don't think kind of did the brand any good. But yeah, just saying that I think cats are relevant, and I sometimes have hashtag print cat I put up for one of my cats, and it helps me get engagement. But I do talk about other things as well.
Yeah.
And everyone knows the lawyer that went on Zoom with his cat.
I mean, those eyes.
I think let's Kelvin say something. He's waving and waving and waving and can't get through.
Sharon, thank you for letting me ask a question. I appreciate it. Now, where do you draw the distinction between your personal brand and your work brand? Because I get, I'm not the cat hamster kind of person at all. And a business that puts a picture of a hamster of it, I've got no interest. I don't want to do business with them. It just turns me off. And I don't mind the humour side of things, but you've got your personal brand, your business brand. And I think it came up on the with Nigel on the LinkedIn thing. People who post pictures of their kids playing in the snow on LinkedIn drives me insane. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I just think, you know what? Go and do that on Facebook if you've got that amount of time. You're wasting my vision by having that. It's just noise. Whereas the work thing is, I like your ears there. With the work thing, it's very focused. It's informative. You're going to take it away. And I'm not a big Facebook person, but I do see the value in Facebook and people do it. But where does the brand start and where does the brand stop? That's a question.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Your brand is
everything.
It
Yeah.
does. A brand is a feeling. your brand, if you want to know what your brand is, it's the feeling somebody has when they talk to you, when they engage with your website, when they look at your poster, or when they do anything. So to make your brand a more positive feeling, you need to emotionally connect with your customers. At Cougar, we emotionally connected with them with all this Cougar branding, which worked out beautifully, like what Matthew said with the hamster, I think he said. It's the emotional connection you make.
Presuming it's the emotion that to the right people. Again, it goes back to who are you connecting with, and is this relevant to them, right? What, you know, the Cougar videos probably worked because of the people that you were engaging with.
But you made it relevant.
Trying to engage folks like Kelvin, it wouldn't have worked.
But we made it relevant because you take your cougar, your cat videos, or your hamster videos, or whatever it is, but you build in your brand and you build in your product, you build in what you're selling to your customer. So you don't just take random cat videos and post them. It's about building a brand.
Okay, so last question, please, because that's great if you're on your own and your business is in a silo, but there are a lot of competition everywhere. And how do you protect your brand from external factors? How do you make sure that your brand is not damaged by someone else who, well, by your competitors, for example? Is there a good, you know, bunch of ideas or of points what to do to combat that, you know, approach from others?
Well, for starters, if you go back to way back at the top of the hour when I said, you know, one of my first jobs was to set up the corporate branding guidelines and print production standards in 3 countries, we're going back 30 plus years. But we as printers, we understand the concept of logos and brand guidelines. We've probably had to work with them many, many times. You have to match the color, you've got to get the right font. We're used to that. Now you take that and you add a messaging playbook that really truly outlines the who you help, how you help, and why it matters. And you've got the key messages that are relevant, the key calls to action. What you've learned helps engage. If you combine that with your logo and brand guidelines and you actually share that and train your staff, because everybody is a brand ambassador in your company. I don't care if you're cleaning floors, if you're washing down the press, or if you're the sales rep. Everybody is going to be asked at some point in time, what do you do for a living? That's your opportunity to share not what you do, but who you help. And the only way you can do that is when corporate, from the top down, everybody embraces, what does this company stand for? Who do we help? How do we help? Why does it matter? If everybody sings from the same songbook, it's a lot more difficult for somebody to come in and erode that brand, unless they really want to be mean and nasty and do things like hijack your website by issuing a DMCA notice against you because they don't trust you. And trust me, that's happened to me. And I overcame it. That's a story for another day. But there are going to be people who fear you. That's when you know you've made it. You've made it. When you've got people coming after you, you're like, holy crap, what did I do right? You're laughing. It's so true.
Sure is.
All right. I think yeah, we just, you know, finished an hour. So again, that was fantastic. It was so insightful and you know, the information that we got is invaluable.
Yay,
so thank
Canada.
you very much, Joanne, and thank you for those freebies, for this freebie hour for us, sharing all your knowledge, or most of it, or part of it.
Whatever
And,
I can
yeah,
do to help.
it was great. Guys, thank you very much. We see you as always next week on Thursday. I'm not sure who is in next week, but in 2 weeks' time we will be again. There's a future print event happening in 2 weeks' time on the 25th. We will be a little bit later on at 5 p.m. So just letting you know what's happening. Yeah, I'm at the moment we are discussing with Marcus and and the guys from Future Print what kind of subject we're going to cover, because I don't think it's going to be exhibitions again. Yeah, so until then, until next week, thank you very much for coming, and see you on
Follow me on
the
LinkedIn,
18th.
connect with
Yeah.
me.
Thank you very much.
Guys,
and
see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Nice to see you.